in the den of iniquity. Vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment. What a pity. Tomorrow never certain. What dwells behind the curtain? The face of evil's lurking with that shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble, could either pop or topple. Many will fall and stumble. Let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso. Cannons will breach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising, and hearts are compromising. Convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming, and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these your circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances, and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest, and the righteous in your corners.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Case Closed. Go ahead and click that like button, click that share button, okay? You're in for a very good and lively conversation today, with the basic question being, are we in the last throes of the American empire, of American dominance in the geopolitical landscape? Is this the end of a unipolar world where there is one pole, one leader? Call it the West, call it NATO, call it the United Nations, but basically it is the United States and its appendages. We see the rise of China, and we see what's going on right now with not having good relationships with Russia, and faltering, definitely fumbling the ball in many different ways. Some people talk about economic fumbling of the ball with the inflation, the overspending, fumbling of the ball with regards to culture, right? This Wokism or overprotectiveness that we perhaps saw during the pandemic, and other things of that nature, okay? Other things of that nature. We are not experts, ladies and gentlemen, but we are concerned citizens. After all, this is a democracy, right? So we are going to try our best to give our opinions on this topic, talk about what we generally think, and we got an all-star panel for you guys as usual. All right, got LAR, the real Dana, we got Dr. Thunder, and shout out to Moses, Dr. Thunder's son, I believe that's his name. And he's 9 years old, and he was telling us backstage that he got him lessons for his birthday. Like, sign this guy up for lessons, just like very makes sense given the
lessons and haircut.
Lessons on the haircut. Oh man, you got rid of his fro. Oh man,
we're gonna cut it down a little bit.
Oh crap! This guy, you're just doing all the bad things. But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, let's start with LAR. And this question is basically simple. It's kind of like a yes or no thing, and you can add, whatever, because we're going to get into it later. But will America be the dominant power in the world? The dominant power in the world. America and the way things are set up right now geopolitically. NATO, United Nations, the treaties and all this type of stuff. In 50 years. Next 50 years, will America be the dominant power? Start with LAR. What do you think?
I don't think so, because everybody's trying to get away from the dollar anyways. So that's their way of kind of pushing it to the side, and the global economy is everybody wants to do their own thing. And I think America has been interfering in far too many people's lives for far too long. So people are tired of that. And I think China is a big example of, they caught up so fast in about a 30-year span after Western ideology left there. So I think that's the issue. People are like, you know what? If these people are not in our space, we can grow exponentially fast. They're a problem everywhere they go. So I say no.
Got it. Dr. Thunder, what is your answer to the question? Next 50 years, America, the dominant power. Moses will be 58 on his 58th birthday. Okay, will he be still, in the belly of the beast that's running the world, or will he be, speaking Chinese?
59. He'll be 59. But
okay.
But yeah, That's tough. I mean, I don't think that we've ever had a period of time when it was even close. Uh, Not for a long, long time. Not since maybe close to the beginning of the history of the country. Has another country been anywhere close? Does that mean that we're going to get overtaken? Not necessarily. Some things will need to change. If some of the pushing back against the wokeism and a lot of the hard left agendas, if some of that is successful, then potentially we can slow down being overtaken. But 50 years is a while. I'm gonna say no. I don't think we'll be overtaken in 50 years.
All right, we got one on the yes side. America will not be, and you have somebody on the opposing side. So Dana, what do you think? Do you envision your grandkids being in a world that is dominated by China in the next 50 years? You're muted, Dana.
Sorry. Probably 50 years from now, I'll be 95. I would say definitely in 100 years, because Rome always fall. Rome fell, and America is the modern Rome. And the way we're going, especially with this administration or administration like this, too much socialism or whatever, the only thing that's keeping us up top is the military. China has a man up program, so their focus is the youth. We don't focus on our youth, and that is a problem. So my grandkids, I think that they're going to be learning several languages anyway, but I think in 50 years, especially when they're adults and they have kids, Mandarin probably would be a requirement. Take China, for instance, they're leaking up with Russia, Iran. Today, I read somewhere that they're going to be doing some war testing, bomb testing in South America, whatever. So they are building up their forces to push back against the West, us, and to dominate. China's in different countries in Africa trying to dominate, building silk roads and trades and stuff like that. So, and we're falling behind in a lot of things, in technology, everything. Too much illegal immigrants, letting outsiders come in and dominate because we're not being creative and innovative within our own country. So it's great to bring in people from outside with fresh ideas, but at the same time, you have to build up what you have at home, and we're not doing that. So yeah, with the wokeism or whatever. So I would say not in my lifetime, but in my grandchildren's and my great grandchildren's lifetime, America most likely will fall.
That is a good one. Okay, so Dr. K, what are your thoughts about this? Next 50 years, will America fall?
Shalom. These days I go by the foundational East African for various different reasons. But anyways, yes. I think in the next 70 years, America is going to fall for various different reasons, right? First of all, racial anonymity, obviously. The influx of Mexicano type people coming in all the way in California and the Bay Area and all that kind of stuff. And the third, the issue with America is not embracing change and also embracing the fact that there is a market, Africans, who can actually fulfill the economic area and then be able to actually pay for the taxes for the social security of the old people. Germany is doing that. The UK is doing that. The UK has now done a deal with Kenya. The Germans have done a deal with Kenya. The Finnish people have done a deal with Kenya. There's a whole point here that if you don't replace the people that are economically viable and actually paying for your social security system, you're going to die.
Okay, so you're pointing out to the demographic bomb, right? The fact that we have all these baby boomers retiring. We have also the ones that are not so rich amongst the baby boomers that will be depending heavily upon the younger people. This is obviously not the only America is not the only place where it's happening. We see a lot of it actually in in Japan. Japan is kind of leading the way, and generally in the West. And you're saying, just like Dana pointed out, that America is falling behind. You emphasize the investment, let's say, in certain parts of the emerging world, like taking advantage of, Africa. Dana mentioned the One Belt, One Road type initiative. So we're falling behind. And we'll get into the specifics as to where you think America is shooting itself in the foot. It has also been mentioned with regards to the inevitability of all this, right? So even though Dr. Thunder said not in the next 50 years, but I'm sure he would say at some point, right? Maybe when the sun blows up, then America will be done. But game changer in the building, okay, what do you have to say? The next 50 years, do you envision America still being the top of a unipolar world order?
No, I don't envision them being the top. However, I don't see America completely falling either. I do think that other countries, some of the BRICS countries, will surpass it, definitely. But will it decline? No. Or excuse me, will it completely fall into squalor in the next 50 years? I don't think so.
All right. So let's start with my man LAR movement, and we're going to talk about the things that America, is dropping the ball with regards to. Right, some things have already kind of been mentioned. You say, okay, economically and in terms of technology, we're not pulling our weight. All the incremental developments that have been being made with regards to, let's say, semiconductor manufacturing and all these other types of things, it's out there in Taiwan and in China and all that type of stuff. People can talk about the military and how we're messing things up. Or maybe LAR is just going to tell us, well, it was all screwed anyways. Didn't I tell you, from the beginning, this is a ruined experiment. But LAR, let's begin talking about the ways in which America is accelerating the decline, the things that we're doing wrong in your view.
Oh, it was over from the beginning. It's always been first and foremost, consideration and courtesy. America has become growingly inconsiderate and not courteous to the point where people have lost common sense. So this is not a smart country in any shape, fashion of the word. People warned us about this for years and years, but people assume that the veneer of the free country brought everybody else's best and brightest, and we can, in this country, screw over our best and brightest for other people. Well, the problem is when you make a situation like that where everybody else is supposed to save dummies because they're in a good position, the dummies become the majority. And that's basically what this country is a majority of dummies. So in 50 years, we're not going to be, what is that movie where everybody was stupid?
Idiocracy?
Yeah, we're not going to be idiocracy, but we're going to be like at least 33 to 50% idiocracy. So we're when like Dr. Thunder, we talk about the wokeism, a lot of the wokeism is just stalling to be stupid.
Yeah.
Stalling to be stupid. Okay. So you've highlighted the non-competitiveness in terms of attracting talent, right? That was something that you definitely emphasized there, that, we generally speaking, yes, you can just, have a good branding, good image and be stupid, but attract people with, hey, freedom and this and that, McDonald's and all that kind of stuff, right? But that we're actually it's not that the case anymore. I heard Elon Musk recently, because he has Tesla exists in China, obviously, and it exists in the United States. And Tesla is a very high work ethic type of place, led by Elon Musk. People work. And someone held his feet to the fire, like, but do the Chinese, is Tesla, China, do they work harder than the United States? And he kind of equivocated a little bit, like, this and that. But he ended up saying, the Chinese work harder, right? So, Dr. Thunder, what are the things that America is doing wrong, accelerating the demise, right? Even though you think the demise may not be in 50 years, but what are the ways in which we're not making it, we're not making it hard for China, or we're making it easier for China, if you will, or whoever else may be gunning for the top slot?
Yeah. and I'm going to do a show on this. I was watching Bill Maher on a recent show, and he was going in on the whole body positivity thing. It's interesting that, you know, we know that Bill Maher is he's not a center person. He's not on the right. He's a left. I mean, he's on the left, but he has been with regularity very much against cancel culture and just stupid stuff like body positivity and all that kind of stuff. And I'm saying this to say that it seems like there, in a manner of speaking, is a growing number of folks that were on the left, but the Democrats have moved so far to the left that they find themselves actually on the right now, what we call on the right. So the sort of paradigm is sort of shifted, is moved off of where it was. So a guy like a Bill Maher, or even Bill Burr, who is a liberal, and his most recent comedy special was very much against a bunch of stupid stuff that American culture is bringing forth, specifically the woke stuff, right? I think that the woke stuff is the primary issue because it is allowing us to use precious energy on something that is completely stupid rather than on stuff like improving test scores, education, stuff like and even stuff like just basic stuff like defending our borders. I mean, it's just silly.
Okay, so let me, before we go to Dana, you mentioned the woke stuff. LAR said that the woke stuff, and then he said it's because of XYZ. He said, it's just a way of stalling, right? That people know they don't got crap, so they're just gonna bluff and say this and say that, right? Since you've thought about this perhaps a little bit, and you said that the wokeism, generally speaking, is the problem, one sentence behind what's the wokeism? Behind what is that? Because wokeism is just a very vague kind of like, okay, it's like a PR campaign. It's like people just talking crap. Like, but what is behind it? What's causing people to go crazy in a simple sentence? Because you'll get the chance to elaborate. But what's behind it? Right.
Yeah, I think it's the logical outgrowth of multiculturalism. Okay,
so you're coming from the, I got you. You're coming from the philosophical perspective. In other words, it's a cultural / sociological / psychological philosophical. It's coming from the universities, basically. Okay, so Dana, what are the things that the United States is doing wrong in your view? And by the way, with regards to the question and the response by Abby there about the unipolarity, that definitely is the post-World War II world where America was the top and stayed just the top, unipolar world is definitely not the norm, right? But it has been that way for quite a while now, and now we have China, which is definitely, the economy is already bigger than the United States. It's inevitable that we don't live in a unipolar world anymore. But the question still remains, I'm just using that word for effect. But Dana, what is America doing wrong?
I would say this is a capitalist society, but I would say if they're doing something wrong, is replacing capitalism with greed, too much greed. And they are decreasing the middle class. So as far as our military, and also it depends on administration, right? Because it was a time, let me just take this administration, the present, as opposed to the previous one. The previous one invested in the military. And one of the reasons why America stayed on top for so long is because of the military. Like, China, they have a good percentage invested in our stock market, in our real estate here, because they utilize the foreign tax credits, right? So you have to have money in order to make money or invest in money and build your money up. So they know our system. So they know how to utilize and benefit from our taxes by creating wealth through real estate and the stock market. But does that mean that they're going to come in and take over? No, because if our economy collapse, so does their real estate and the stock market, their finances, whoever invested in it. But as far as a complete takeover, we're talking about dominance. We're talking about your military. Your military is what protects what you have. If you don't have a strong military or a military, then you're going to get dominated. People are going to come in and conquer you. It's all about being conquered. But there are other ways to be conquered, which is not so much about force. And it is about advancement, technology, education, and trade, and who you allow in your country, right? So I would definitely say, as far as, greed, illegals, and too many policies allowing a lot of outsiders come in by way of like HR, I think it's HR 40, the visa, working, immigration, and not building up this economy. We're still going to trade, we're still going to have immigration at a high level, but if we are not investing in our youth the same way China is, and if we are not specifically focusing on building up manhood, like China, Russia, Iran, because it's the men that does all the, protection or whatever. So if we're not focused on that and going to Dr. Thunder, focus too much on that woke stuff, socialism, which never worked for us here in America, then that is what we're doing wrong. It's too much woke, not enough manhood, not enough innovation from within, and allowing too many outsiders to come in, especially by way of illegal ways. And that is all under the umbrella of greed and not capitalism. And that is what's wiping out our middle class.
So greed, not developing the human potential in the United States, harkening back to what LAR said also about the idiocracy, right? And Dr. Thunder talking about the Wokism. So
let me just
go ahead.
Let me say one thing about building up here, because like this administration, they want people to be dependent on the government. So it's not so much let the government teach me. No, how about you give me free range to do what I need to do to pursue the pursuit of happiness, right? The pursuit of happiness is getting out of my way so that I could build up whatever life that I want and participate in this economy. But with this administration, they want us to be reliant on the government, which is one of the key things of wiping out the middle class. And who's benefiting is the wealthy and outsiders.
100%. And let me address what's on the screen right now. Okay. I know that people like to get into the define this, define that. And those definitions always come in context. In this context, okay, in the context of what's America doing wrong to shoot itself in the foot, woke is a focus on irrelevant things when you haven't built the relevant things, such as you have a company. You guys are supposed to be selling software to clients. But rather than focus on what will help you sell software to clients, what we see these days is people talking about how they feel about the book that the HR person wrote 10 years ago, and they mentioned something about affirmative action. So I don't feel comfortable. The workplace kind of diversity and inclusion, all that kind of stuff. That is what wokeism, that's what wokeism is the problem. We're not talking about wokeism as a philosophy. You can sit down and agree or disagree, but there is a strong emphasis on focusing on things that don't matter as opposed to getting ish strict. That, insofar as what we're talking about, is the critical point about wokeism. But the foundational East African, the conquered man, the dominated, conquered and colonized. So maybe you know a little bit about this, but what is America doing wrong, Dr. K?
Yeah. Shout out to you, and shout out to me for the foundational East African, right? The only East African that is not a product of the Bantu expansion, the Nilote expansion, or the dusty Cushitic expansion, right? I'm the original man from my side, and I respect my foundation.
You and Dana can go discuss that and the River Euphrates somewhere else. Answer the question.
Okay, America is doing wrong because it's not adjusting to the specific reality, right? America is allowing dusties from Mexico to come into the country, California specifically, right? Who are not specialized, skilled people. If America decides to have a point-based system, just like Australia, New Zealand, and also Finland, it can actually be able to utilize the market that is all over the world and can actually take people in from Africa, Finland, or all those regions that can actually have access to this thing. America is not going to fail because of the whole weird racial issues that it has. America can survive that. America is going to fail because America is too American. America believes that it is some unique creature that has the economic, social, as well as other beneficial traits that is not seen in other parts of the world. And that just simply is not true. America has to adjust itself and actually acknowledge that there are other places where it can reach some kind of skilled, sourced workers, as well as other ideological regions.
So you're kind of in line a little bit with LAR's point about, just hoping that you can attract the best because you're America and all the best will come to you. You're going to get all the best deals anyways, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
I don't think so, because if you look at Russia, let's see, Germany has changed the system. It's now looking to the whole point-based system, just like Australia, New Zealand. Also, the UK has changed itself, allowing immigrants to come in if you have reached a certain point based on your qualifications and all that kind of stuff. You can come in and you can work there. America usually attracts the best because everybody just thinks America's the best, but that's not going to be no longer the actuality, because what's happening is you're getting immigrants understanding, oh, hang on, America is $62,000 a year. Germany is like, what, 59? So why the hell would I go to America if I can go to Germany, which is much easier, allows for my educational diplomas to be accepted into the actual forum. Germany extended itself from in 2009, it had only, 7% of the world's educational diplomas and degrees accepted. Now it's gone up to 22%. So you see, America has to adjust to this. Otherwise, it's not going to die. So it's not going to survive. I said the wrong thing.
All right. Thank you very much. You got a sound effect for us, Dr. Thunder, while we acknowledge the super chat. All right, we have that sparse clapping in that dusty room of yours that you recorded. Anyways, Technological Chaos with the $10 super chat. Thank you very much. Says this, okay, is the product of radical postmodernism. Again, kind of going along with the lines of Dr. Thunder here. Postmodernism, multiculturalism, relativism, all that type of stuff. God is dead, as Nietzsche warned us about. He said that he was prescient about all this. Now, abandoning the capability of natural limits / infinite growth has polluted the monetary system. Science, blah, blah, blah. Okay, cool. Yes. Postmodernism is just kind of that whole idea that, hey, we can just keep faking things. Nothing is really real anyways. Is there really matter? Is it really this? Is it really that? So is there really money? Is there really a budget? We could just keep on, faking and infinite growth. One of Dr. Thunder's kind of favorite topics. The pie is just going to keep on getting bigger and bigger and bigger, regardless. You heard that, Dr. K? It's not irregardless. It's regardless, Dr. K. But anyways, what's the next super chat? Let's get through these real quick. And
actually, they updated that along with the definition of recession. They updated that. Now it is actually a word. But
okay, so irregardless has been updated by the Joe Biden White House. I stand corrected. Thank you, Ministry of Information.
Yeah,
what's the next?
You'll see them actually editing it in real time.
Andrew Walker, $20. That's big money right there. That's big money. We got $5 as well. 5 for the most epic Hotep realignment of all time, and that was from Don McKee. Well, thank you very much. Keep the super chats coming in. So, game changer. What, in your opinion, is America doing wrong? We've seen everything from not developing its human potential to military, shall we say, and then also just hoping that it'll get the best. What in your mind are some other things America is doing wrong that is accelerating the decline?
Well, I mean, I definitely agree with each person here. So maybe not the Mexican thing, but I definitely agree mostly with everything that everyone said as far as contributing to the decline. What I would like to add to that is, and I think that this has always been a problem with this concept that America has since its inception, whenever they said separation of church and state. Basically, what church is, and I'm not a strongly religious man, but what church is a unifying culture for the citizens of a nation. You've seen places build up because of church and because they have a universal, or excuse me, a unifying culture for all of its citizens, and it was backed and supported by the government. That's why the Romans, executed Christians and people like that. It's because it went against the culturally enforced norm of the time. We don't have anything like that. We don't have a culture that keeps the family together, that encourages people to behave as a unit for the community, not for the individual.
Did we ever have that game changer in your opinion?
That's what I'm saying. In our exception, because separation of church and state, we didn't really have it legally protected. However, Christianity was the cultural norm, and at least it did have some benefits, which was keeping, the family structure somewhat together. And, a lot of the woke things didn't really apply to the Christian church at the time. Now, what we've seen is a slow decline. And that's why I say things like this tend to have a very slow decline, which is why I say we wouldn't be gone in the next 50 years, but we definitely will be, humbled, so to speak. There isn't an enforceable American culture. In other words, people can gravitate towards whatever culture they wish, and now it's just spiraling in so many different directions. And then you have an internal force that is encouraging it to go a certain direction. If they feel that one culture is more lucrative than another, whether it's feminism or alternative lifestyle cultures, they're going to promote that because this group of people spend a little bit more than that group of people. So they want a certain number of people within this group than the other groups. They're going to continue to do that, and there isn't any foundational culture in America, which also degrades a sense of nationalism that comes with certain countries, because what does the nation represent? What are you protecting? You're protecting a culture that has sustained your people for quite some time. America doesn't really have that to unify its people or unify its military and things like that. So that will be a definite part of the slow decline.
Interesting.
Hey, can I ask a Game Changer a question?
Go ahead.
So, do you believe that because you've done a couple streams on the social contract, right? Recently, because of there's that video where the young lady is being taken back to the airport.
Yes.
And I did a show on.
Hold on a second. Can you let the audience know, right, in 2 sentences, what you guys are talking about? Social contract, what video? What are you guys talking about?
Well, the social contract is the sort of gentleman's agreement, as it were, of how you're going to conduct yourself in social settings and also in politics and government like that. So it's an understood sort of conduct, right? And in our community, there was an agreement that was broken. Especially, but I'd say it's been broken in the country at large. And so what we're seeing now is we're sort of I don't want to say reimagining, but we're sort of rewriting what the social contract is going to be. And this is why you're seeing stuff like on TikTok where, if the guy doesn't think that the girl's going to put out on the date, then they're splitting the bill. That's why you're seeing all that kind of stuff happening with regularity. So my question to you, Game Changer, is, do you believe that there's a relationship between this sort of early Christian, this business that you talked about, and this social contract? Do you think that the way that the sort of religious thing went, that's also has some bearing on the social contract that was broken, if you understand my question.
Well, social contract between whom?
Well, I'm talking about in general conduct or general contract conduct, man to man, man to woman, what's expected, that kind of thing. But then also, I would argue the social contract in relationships too.
Well, I mean, definitely. Really, religion kind of enforced indirectly the social contract in relationships, because you made your vows not only to the person but to God Himself. So
Right. And
that's
in community. So that's what the
exactly.
witnesses
So in
and
front of
groomsmen and
witnesses
all
and
that's
everything.
for.
Yeah, so definitely, and as religion goes, people see less of a need, to honor the social contract between man and woman. So I mean, the whole purpose of religion, from my perspective, was to maintain and enforce a certain family structure, and it did so. It actually brought Europe out of the Dark Ages. So it is a unifying and constructive force. If I ever seen one in human history. And not to say that things cannot be built the same way for a different reason, but to say it does have that particular effect. It sustained literacy amongst Europeans, throughout the Dark Ages and things like that. So, it is a very powerful force, but no matter what, you need something. You need something to control the behavior of its citizens in a positive way. You need to have some sense of enforcing a constructive culture, and not just allow the individuals to construct their own destructive culture. I think that that's highly necessary. And by the way, religion is not the only way. China did it without religion. So there are, and Japan did it to a lesser extent without religion. There are certain things that you can enforce amongst your citizens to govern their behaviors in a way that's productive for society.
Okay. Let's acknowledge your super chat real quick. Dr. Thunder, with your button for another one from Technological Chaos. America is special because it's a world reserve currency holder and creates more capital flow to buy international labor at higher prices. The currency thing definitely is a big thing.
Point.
Yes. I think that Technological Chaos was kind of a harkening, emphasizing the point that you made. So I like this part that we're in here, and I'm going to continue by throwing it to LAR with regards to the new religion that LAR is going to lead us down, because he is the savior, is he not? But with regards to the cultural point which we are in right now, which we're saying, hey, Dr. Thunder started with, multiculturalism, wokeness, blah, blah, blah. Game Changer kind of solidified it by saying, look, you don't have a unified culture, something that says we are Americans, just like the French can say we are French, right? And this is our language, and this is our people, and we are white, whatever, right? America doesn't have that. And it is a feature, not a bug, by the way. It is a feature of the United States that it was written that way, that, hey, we're going to come together based on low needs. By low stuff, I mean life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, right? You don't shoot me, I don't shoot you. We want this bread, you want this land, you want, yeah, okay, cool. That's very low basic stuff. But the idea now is, how sustainable over the long term is that kind of low agreement? Do we need a higher up, top down, unified, has been said. So comment on this, LAR, if you will, right? What would be a nice, good kumbaya, use your imagination or whatever. You can answer the question directly by saying, I would do this, or you can say, hey, it'd be better if it looked like this. To address what Game Changer and Dr. Thunder are saying, which is no unified moral order. What would a unified moral order look like? Does it exist somewhere in the world that you would say, you know what, I think we should be like this country? Or if LAR ran a cult, this is how we would do it. If my question makes sense, LAR, go ahead and tackle it.
In the words of U.S.A. Connection, bow down. Here's the thing. America never had a moral compass. And that's one of the biggest issues with this whole society is I don't know how they did it, but they did it very well. This country is constructed on a lie, and people love to buy into it. So the best part of American fantasy and American capitalism is it's, what do you say? It's double-minded. You get what I'm saying? So what people are fearing the most is really the death of white America. And that's what Europe is fearing. So it looks like people are kind of just low-key trying not to say this publicly, like, if the white people die off, nobody else can run the world. And that's our population issue, where, truth be told, this country wasn't really built by white people, but it was built for white people, but they don't actually know how to run it. They never.
So kill Whitey. Go ahead.
Well, not kill Whitey. It's more so kill the idea that Whitey knows what he's doing. You know, that's where this whole thing ends, because that's the rise of China, and so as also the rise of India. It's the idea that Whitey doesn't know what he's doing. Once you, what is that old quote about? You don't really have to kill a god; you just got to make him bleed. Then somebody else along the way will come. So this country was viewed as a god, but people have made it bleed so much now that the other people go, oh, it really can bleed for real. So, in my opinion, there's really not much this country can do to right the ship, because at the end of the day, to right the ship, you have to be honest, and this country can't do that.
So I wanted to, and we're gonna get, Dr. Thunder, I want to get your idea on what this unified culture would be, could be. Is it possible? Is it not possible? Is all of this kind of inevitable? Like, hey, this is the future of America. When you create a society that agrees on the lower stuff, it works for a while and you can be very productive and you don't have to worry about what the other person is doing. You can stay out of each other's way, but it doesn't last. But I wanted to mention something which, a game changer said, but China doesn't have a religion, but it did it in different ways. It doesn't matter what you call it. There is something, right, that creates this unified moral code. And whether you call it a banana or religion, wherever you see a society operating with that, then they have it. Okay, you can't say, oh, China doesn't have a religion, but it's doing that thing that I said religion. It's like, okay, there's no point getting hung up about words. If you go to an ancient human being, right, practicing some stuff that you think is a religion, and you say, hey, is that your religion? And you look at you like, are you crazy? Like, no, this is just life. This is what I do. It's like when we wake up and we say good morning, and somebody says, is that your religion? It's like, no, we just kind of say good morning. And then they said it's like life, religion, in other words, what I'm saying, and this is not to get too philosophical, religion is a modern concept. But anyways, Dr. Thunder, what would be this unified culture? LAR said it never existed, and that the whole thing was pretending that, white people knew what they were doing and they could blah, blah, blah. But go ahead and take it from there, Dr. Thunder.
Yeah, I think from the beginning of the country, I think that the most the thing that sort of bound people together was survival. So just basic survival, being able to eat, being able to, protect your family, that kind of stuff, and the pursuit of wealth, right? So you had a lot of people that were poor and they had to work hard to, but it was the only time basically in history where people that were born poor could actually transform themselves into a person of means, right? By their own labor. It's really the only time in history that's really been the case. And so I think what's happened is, as more of us have way too much stuff, we have more than is necessary. You've got morbidly obese, poor people, a dime a dozen, which doesn't seem to track well when you consider what poverty is supposed to mean. You have people that are homeless, but that have cell phones. I mean, so you just have a lot of stuff that wouldn't have been the case in the past. And I think there's less of a sense of if I don't do this, I can't survive. And so then I think that we've started to create these other issues, which aren't really issues. They just stand in the way of actual progress. So that's our initial issue. As far as something that's a unified feature, it's rough because one of the issues with okay, so you have this child star, or rich kids sort of syndrome, where if you already have money when you're a kid, then it makes it disproportionately those kids aren't good people, because they don't have to develop any of the discipline necessary to become, the discipline associated with becoming a good person also seems to have an impact on their ability to acquire assets, right? If you already have the assets, then you don't need to develop the discipline, right? And so, and the same thing with like a child star. If you get too much attention too early, now what is the point of me struggling for? That should have been something that happened later in life that they worked towards, right? There was a theocracy, lasted for 1,000 years. It was an Orthodox Christian, actually, theocracy. It was the Byzantine Empire, right? So there was a particular standard of conduct in particular. I mean, that's true. I don't know how much, wealth creation there was under that system, but at least they seem to be, in agreement about the ultimate nature of reality. So I don't know. It's a bit of sort of mixing issues. I really think that it's the survival thing that actually animated much of the wealth creation. And now that people already have stuff, we're complaining about stuff that is not worth complaining about. So,
can I interject for a second, Mike?
Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. No, it's interesting that the Byzantine Empire is, you're right, it was sustained by a set of principles and ideals, and it was destroyed by another group of people who also wanted to spread their, ideals and belief systems. So it was really like a clash of beliefs, which really showed how important things like that is. And how it unified a nation and, made nations strong. Their strength grew from that. The Ottomans in this particular case, and the Byzantine Empire, even though the western part of the empire, fell, but, they sustained throughout that. So, yeah, the strength of conviction is very important there.
Okay. Dana, all right. First of all, do you agree with this whole general cultural decay, lack of a unifying moral code being an issue when it comes to the integrity of a nation, being able to last, right? And what would the code be like under your system, or what you could envision, or something you could point to and say, hey, those people have a unified code or a religion or whatever, their own code, if you will. Go ahead and respond.
I mean, we're talking about nationwide, because the question that, you was posing, America, morals. We do have morals. America was built on a particular set of morals. One of them is democracy. Now, under this current administration, you see our democracy being chipped away. Human rights, free market. That was the compass of American morals. Now, so which is why everyone from around the world wants to come here. I don't know what the gentleman over here name is in the middle, but he made a comment, about the Mexicans coming over here and they're not skilled, something to that effect. And they are skilled. A lot of them are more skilled than Americans, because they're about to corner the market in landscaping and construction. So the thing is, when I sit up here and say that I think our borders, and you sound like you are an immigrant yourself, but when I say less immigration, I mean legal. HR 40 working visas and illegals. And it's not because you are less than, it is just the total opposite. Because yes, other nations, depending on their economic state, they do invest in education. Not so much the government investing in education, but the culture of the family structure. Even in Egypt, they, for instance, I believe their medical school, if you get anything below a 98, they kick you out. So you are not immigrants or illegals. No, they're not, because they're less than. I hear feedback. It's the opposite of they are our competition. Will this country be ruled by people of color? Absolutely not, because when we're talking about quote unquote white supremacy, aka WS, the white man is still going to rule. Which white man from which continent or which European country? But the fact is that now it is a possibility that you may have a Latino or someone from South America, because the influx coming here, becoming homeowners, business owners, getting some type of legal status under this administration, allowing illegals to vote, because you're talking about politics, getting their politicians in office, right? They're going to try and rule. Now, personally, I don't want to be under a rulership of the Chinese or a damn Hispanic, Latino, Mexican, whatever, African. No. And even though those are
dusty Africans,
even though they're ethnic groups, and I am a Black American, I know how the white man thinks and how they operate. Black people will not be rulers of this nation, and the way I see it, any damn nation, especially in Africa, because we're not focused on the right things and what it takes to build a strong culture that's going to last generation after generation, number one. And also, when you take a country, you need a strong military. You need to make sure that you can sustain within your nation as far as agriculture or whatever, infrastructure and everything. But if you keep opening up your borders and trading with outsiders, allowing China to come in, the U.S. has a lot of military base in Africa. We may not be building silk roads, but our military is going to be controlling it in certain countries. So I'm Xing out the Black man being a ruler of a nation. More so, the white man will most likely always be in control. But which white man? I just don't want to be controlled by a Chinaman, Mexican, or African, or whatever. But we did have a moral compass here in America. We are losing it because we're going more of a dictatorship / socialism, Marxist type thing. And that is because when you allow too many of the outside coming in, that is the downfall of any nation. That is how so many African kingdoms collapse, because of the foreign exchange, letting foreigners come in and trade, and then they figure out how your system works and they strategize to come in and take over. So that has worked throughout time, and that's how it works today. And eventually that is going to be the downfall of America.
Gotcha. So, Dr. K, a unified nation built to last. How does that concept strike you? And America is not apparently meeting that definition, even though Dana rightly pointed out to us that, look, principles are principles. If you call them democracy, in other words, I call them low principles in terms of, hey, we just want to get along and eat and not kill each other, right? Call them low or high, they're principles. The democracy is a principle. Why would you say it's not? That kind of a thing. But
can I just add one thing to what you're saying? Because I think people also thinking that in society, the goal is to live in harmony. No, the goal it is war. Whether it's economic war, wars between nations, those are the ones who are going to survive. Can you win the war? Killings are going to still exist. What is happening right now in the Gaza Strip or whatever? So it's not about let's all live together in harmony. No, it is about me building up a strong foundation and building up a military base so that you cannot conquer me.
100%, 100%. Competition often serves, cooperation serves competition. In other words, the reason people cooperate and come together is so they can kick the ass of the neighbor, right? So whenever we see cooperation, it's so that you can get an even better competition going. Anyways, Dr. K, you know what's going on. You've heard everything. Any comments on where we're at right now with regards to unified culture and whatnot?
Yeah, first of all, America has to deal with this whole racism issue. Black Americans, or FBAs, Foundational Black Americans. I'm an EA, Foundational East African, right? So we have a similar issue over here in East Africa. But the point is, if you don't unify yourself, you don't actually feel that you're part of the culture, you don't feel that you're part of the zeitgeist, you're not going to be able to actually defend that nation. I'll give you a simple example, right? Google employee, a black woman who actually did some research and found out that Google was actually doing research on artificial intelligence that was basically underperforming the blacks. It was comparing the blacks to gorillas. So that means if a AI self-driving car sees a black, it will think of it as a gorilla. And if it sees a white woman, it will think of it as a human. That means it will be more likely to kill the black gorilla rather than white woman. Now, if you can't solve those simple issues in America, you guys are done to be finished. And that's just reality of the simple content.
Okay, wait, hold on. Okay, so part of what you're saying is tongue-in-cheek, but the data that's being used to train AI, that's just data. China has to use the same data. Now, granted, China has, and by the way, that's why China can make a lot of advances, because they have a population, massive population, that they have a lot of control of, so they can get a lot of information. And big data is a big driver for artificial intelligence, which is the next frontier that we're going towards technologically.
But I have
Africa is not.
You
America is not.
Guys, who are you guys?
Americans.
Are you American, or are you just a foreigner without your papers?
He's a dusty Ken. He's in Kenya. He's freaking.
Oh, you're not
I'm in Kenya.
Citizen. You're not an American citizen.
No, I'm not an American citizen.
Okay.
I've been to New York before, and I've been to the UK, etc.
No,
Australia.
but you're not an American citizen.
No, I'm not an American citizen.
Right. But when you say you guys, what about you guys? You are already conquered. You don't have a military base.
No, we have American.
Data. The topic is America, so don't get triggered. Like, come on.
Okay,
we're talking about America.
We're talking about America, but we already have we're already a dominant country. So, so I guess this is the thing I'm saying. A lot of outsiders are saying you guys this, but everyone wants to come here as if, don't sit up here and say we're going through this and y'all gonna have a downfall. Are you saying that from experience because your country collapsed?
I'm saying
that's an interesting point, and I'll let you address it, Dr. King.
Yeah, let me address this, right. First of all, so I am a foundational East African. It's a similar concept to the foundational Black America, because my genetic information comes from the real East Africans before these dusty Bantus, Nilos, and Kushites came in. I'm the original Southeast African Kushite and hunter-gatherer. Every other dusty that came in later is not a real East African. Anyways, that's irrelevant. So I'm saying this because I came from the UK. I grew up in the UK. I've been to America before, obviously a couple of times in New York. However, my main country is the UK and also Kenya. So the point is, in the UK, we keep seeing the same situation. UK is falling because the white population is not having enough of a birth rate. That's extremely important if you want to maintain your own demographic and also racial hierarchy and everything. Indians are having more children. Somalis are having more children than the white women. So the issue here is, in the UK, is that I believe in the next 50 years, Indian subcontinent peoples of India, Pakistan, Bangladesh are going to be the majorities of this whole region. America, I believe, has a similar situation whereby the Native Americans, when I say Native, I don't mean that's the Aztecs. I mean whites and blacks. They are going to be a minority in their own country because Mexicans and all these South Americans are going to keep coming in and taking over the whole situation, and they're going to be more skilled in certain jobs, like you mentioned, carpentry, ability to actually seek economic empowerment, rather than the Americans who kind of feel empowered or somehow entitled. If that does not end, America is going to be a downfall, because every single situation, when you look at history, all these tribes and kingdoms have fallen. Rome fell, Egypt fell, UK fell,
Kenya.
America will fall.
But no, so I agree with you, because that's exactly what I was saying. Is when you look throughout the history, nations fall because allowing outsiders to come in and infiltrate. Which
Well, let me ask you a direct question with regards to what he said. So he's saying, look, if blacks and whites don't come together, whom are he's calling, the native peoples, if you will, right, in America, then this is definitely something that accelerated the decline. That if y'all, what do you mean by y'all, the blacks and the whites don't figure it out, then everyone else is just going to come wipe it all away. You seem to think, though, that no matter what, the white man's got it. But what do you say to that?
Well, it's all about, as far as population is one thing, but control is something else. Because Indians in the UK, or even Africans in the UK, or even in the United States, the Mexicans here or illegal immigrants here, y'all don't control the banking system. You don't control the market. So if you're not controlling the banking system, if you're not controlling the military, you will never control this nation. But the fact is that, yes, you're going to populate over here, right? And it is going to dilute as far as the foundational Americans, and particularly foundational Black Americans, would be diluted and pushed out, right? But the goal for some immigrants to come over here is to try and dominate. So whether it's China, a nation trying to conquer this nation, whether it's the immigrants or illegal immigrants from a certain region trying to come over here and dominate and control via the political system, it is you could say a war within our nation coming from different sectors. But the underlying common denominator is allowing outsiders to come in and infiltrate your nation.
All right. Go ahead.
One of the things that Dana was talking about, and you were talking about, and Dr. K was talking about, was algorithms. And the thing about it is, the algorithm thing, the racial aspect, yeah, they're plugged in algorithms to be biased. But beyond that issue, when Dana was talking about population and control, people who are quote unquote not Black or white in America, they have a tendency to go with the white protocol. So when you say the Chinese and the Indians, and you can even say, Central South Americans, Africans, people in the UK, people in the Middle East, they don't have an issue buying into that algorithm that will inevitably put them under the bus too, because
exactly
I'm trying to say this in a way people as a Black American, my family was enslaved, but other people accepted a slavery mindset to think white is right. So they're going to use that. This algorithm is going to control people in the future, because people don't realize they put America so much on a pedestal that you're at home with an algorithm that puts you under the bus because a white person gave it to you. And this is even going to affect China. But that was my point. Sorry for taking so long.
That's a fair point. Most of the world is completely blind as to the inherent biases that is in the quote unquote system / algorithm. The algorithm is what is going to be the next iteration of quote unquote the system. But Dr. You're not a doctor, game changer. Why am I calling you a doctor? You better go earn that PhD.
Don't belittle the doctor names. So Dr. Thunder and Dr. Kaiser, man.
Okay, so game changer. Game changer is the chess piece, though, so he may have an edge on you guys. So, Game changer, you brought us to this place here, so you can end it for us. The place of unified culture, right? And everyone has been putting their 2 cents in with regards to that. What is your vision? Is it the Church of Game Changer? If everybody subbed to your channel, would it be the problem be solved?
A black shadow. If you notice, it's a black shadow there. That's us.
So
go ahead.
It doesn't, as I was saying before, it doesn't necessarily have to be religion, but as long as there's a unifying culture, somebody mentioned like Leave It to Beaver, that would be society, and perhaps even at the time the government promoting a certain lifestyle. the nuclear family was, the term was, a government creation to support a lifestyle that they wanted its citizens to have in order to sustain the population and sustain the culture. You see, if a country has a strong, productive culture, immigration is not a problem, because what happens is that people eventually assimilate into the given culture. Which is really all we're trying to preserve. The concept of America is not an ethnic or really a racial makeup. As long as a person comes and they get down with the program, it really doesn't matter. And that's the same with the Ottomans as well as the
not necessarily game changer, but go ahead to your point.
That's the same as the Ottomans as well as the Byzantines, who allowed people of different ethnic origins or racial origins to, as long as they assimilated into the culture, then they became a part of it and strengthened the population. Because
as long as they assimilated into the culture, in other words, they're a different thing now. Like, it doesn't matter where they came from, but they're now under a unified code. But anyways, go ahead.
Exactly. No, I mean, and it's a very poignant thing. I mean, because the Spanish Inquisition, it was about culture. It was like, listen, you can stay, but you got to get down with this. If you're a small hat person, then you got to take that small hat off and you got to get down with the program. If you are a Muslim person, you're going to have to stop praying 5 times a day, and you're going to have to get down with this program. So really what things are about is a unifying culture. They don't really care about the ethnic makeup. Generally speaking, the ethnic makeup of its citizens is not that important to a nation that's looking to advance itself. That's why we allow legal immigration for exceptional people from different countries and things like that. The problem is that we don't have a unifying culture. So a lot of people can come from other places and sustain their own culture. And over a certain period of time, if they pass this culture down a generation and breed at a faster rate, then what happens is, especially in democracy, is that you will get outvoted. You see, there's more than one ways to take a country other than military means. Rome was taken far before the Germans and the Vandals and things took it by military means. It was taken over by cultural means. That's why it became a Christian nation. The Christians outbred the existing, what you would call pagans, or the followers of Jupiter, whatever you want to call them, and they basically took over in that regard. So entities can be taken over culturally far before it's taken over by military means. So there is.
I need to push back on what you're saying, because in the beginning, the first part, the second part, it's like it's two different things. When one nation is coming into another nation, yes, they're going to take over, and you either assimilate to what we came in here and want to push on you, or you die. It's either or. But as far as when you said that, this nation don't really care too much about your racial or ethnic background, that's not true, because this nation was built for the white man and the white woman and their democracy. And they brought in enslaved Africans to work this land. And then we do have a caste system here, just like they have a caste system in India. So, which is a real theme today, and most likely is going to stay in place. So, and this is why I don't like cutting people off, but your second part is something totally different from your first part. But when you are assimilating, you're assimilating into what? You're assimilating into the American culture. What is the American culture? It is a democracy. The other countries is a dictatorship. You either do as I say, or they're going to put you against the wall.
Which country is this?
Over here in America.
Which country is a dictatorship?
China is a dictatorship. What do you call it?
Don't the Chinese? I'm not familiar, but don't the Chinese elect as officials?
Whether you elected or not,
that's the definition of democracy. So answer me, please. Do China elect its officials? Do they elect their prime minister?
I am answering you, so stop interrupting me. China,
you're interrupting me. Just to be clear,
China right now is doing a genocide of wiping out Muslims. In India, they do wipe out Muslims. It is a dictatorship. When you get here in America, we have a democracy where you have free speech, free religion. So Second Amendment So the culture here, you assimilate that people who kill themselves to come over here is democracy. That's the assimilation in capitalism. So
Yeah. So what you're describing,
your whole
Jesus.
first part was misinformation. That was just not true. But this country, yes, it is rooted in racism. It is rooted in a caste system.
All right. So you're confusing democracy with liberty. And
No,
you're also
I'm not.
Yes, you are.
No, I'm not.
Okay.
So if you think other, that's fine. You're entitled to your opinion. But no, I'm not confusing the two.
Okay, so a system of government by the whole population or all eligible members of the state typically elect representatives. So most of the world has a democracy. Most of the world does not have the Second Amendment and all the other crap that you was talking about. These are things that are liberty. So guess what? Stop interrupting. Guess what? If a country can be both democratic.
I don't know if you are.
Stop interrupting. A country can be both democratic.
Okay. You can't talk at the same time.
Democratic and shoot people against the wall. Understand that. Okay.
You can't talk at the
same
time.
All right. Hey. Okay, game changer. Finish your point, game changer. A country can be both. Go ahead.
No, a country can be both democratic. You see, people tend to take all of America's ideals and principles and just put it under the umbrella of democracy. This is that whole thinking that we are better and nobody else is democratic but us. But really, most countries are democratic. Most countries do elect their representatives. That is what the definition of democracy is. All the other crap that she talks about, all these liberties, is what put us in this place to begin with. The liberties that she talked about is why the Gibbets have the liberty to march down San Francisco or New York or New Jersey or LA. These are liberties. And guess what? People come for those liberties, people leave for the same reason. You know, let's be clear. Let's not confuse liberty with democracy.
Let me explain.
Now, you may not explain. Now, the continued problem.
Dana, let him finish. It was his turn after all, right? Dana.
Now, as I was stating before, there are other ways to control and take a nation. Especially a democratic nation, one that elects its representatives other than military means. Okay, you can outvote a population, and the reason that this government, hey, shut the fuck up.
No, you shut.
All right, no.
That's what I'm saying.
No. Would you shut her the fuck up?
Then he could go on to his second part.
All right, cool. Both of you. All right,
yeah, we can't talk at the same time.
We can't do that. Okay, and we look. Okay, hold on a second. Okay, we're not gonna talk about words like democracy and liberty and act like things don't have different meanings. Game changer is right in the sense that you could be a democracy without the Bill of Rights, right? There are many kinds of democracies. America is a particular one, right?
The American
democracy is
what gives you liberty.
It is not your turn to speak. You were wrong about democracy and liberty. Shut the fuck up and let the men talk.
All right, game changer. Let's go to LAR because we got to do the last. We got to do the last round. It's perfect, both of you and your words and definitions. I
didn't get my words out because
you can't have an American.
Okay, wait. LAR. This is the last round.
Of the two.
This is the last round, LAR, and you're going to start us on it, right? And thanks for bringing the spice, ladies and gentlemen. Go ahead and pay for that, okay? Drop something in the super chat because you see people are working hard here to keep this thing flowing, entertaining, spicy, and whatnot, okay? We brought a little bit of dust for those of you who were craving the dust this Sunday afternoon. But LAR, somebody said some things in the chat that are very important in the sense that, look, the Chinese economy is already bigger than the American economy, right? There's some kind of a path of inevitability that we're on here, okay? Even if, for example, we get the moral thing correct, we get our moral house in order and we get this cultural unity that we talk about, we implement fiscal discipline, we start being more competitive with regards to what we produce. And when it comes to innovation, which is the particular thing that we're supposed to be doing here in the West, right? We're supposed to be innovating, right? Not worried about, wokeism, but we're supposed to be coming up with, it's very important for us here to be open, which is in terms of truth and freedom of speech, because we're supposed to be the ones coming up with the new ideas. And then the iPhones can get built somewhere else, but we're supposed to be coming up with the idea of the iPhone. Why am I saying all this? I'm saying we could do all of this, LAR, and still China will still be ahead of us, right? Or China is still going to be bigger than us. So how do you cope in that world? How do you adjust? How do you realign yourself and say, hey, you know what? We kind of had it for a while. Post World War II, we had a good run. The world is not going to be unipolar forever. We're going to at least have to deal with China, and maybe Russia joins China or whatever it is. How do we play in this world where it is inevitable that China will be number one, starting with LAR, and then we'll go around?
To be a Debbie Downer, we can't compete. And the reason why we can't compete is because a big bulk of China's growth is American outsourcing.
That's right.
If you're gonna say that, oh, America, we're gonna get back on top. Well, here's the problem: you gave China the economy that surpassed you by not producing things that when you had the opportunity to. So guess what? What are you gonna do now? And it's not necessarily America's downfall has always been the same thing. It's just it's revamped itself. America as a country and an institution was always built on laziness. I want you to do it for me. I don't want to do it. You do it for me, I reap the benefit. The problem is it kept evolving because, okay, slavery was I get the benefit for sure. Then child labor was, I get the vast majority of the benefit. Then employees was, okay, I get a good bit of the benefit. Now outsourcing, okay, I get as much as I got back then because of the cost of living there. But here's the problem: to do that, I got to give you the blueprint in another country. See, we complain about China and about outsources, but what we most complain about with other countries that we outsource business to, they're knockoff market, because you had to give them the recipe in their country.
That's true.
So everything that's happened in this country is from its own laziness and incompetence. And to eradicate laziness and incompetence, you'll have to do what this country never did: do the actual work yourself. That's the issue. And that's what immigration is about. I still don't want to do the work. Could you come from your country and do the work for me? That's the issue. Now, I'm not pushing back on neither one of you, Game Changer or Dana. I'm adding this to what y'all was saying. This country can be viewed as a democracy by 4-year dictator, the way it's run. So because of that, you got a new plan every 4 years from another dictator who you elected. But guess what? All of these different people have a different direction this country goes in for their benefit. So we're just playing 3-card Monte every 4 years, and people are trying to figure out what's going on. That was always the hustle, to have the population figure out what's going on while people already make deals for themselves. But that's my point.
Do the work. That's what LAR says. So, Dr. Thunder, how do you cope in this situation? Okay, at some point, China is definitely going to take over. The economy is already bigger, right? The economy is already bigger. They're making incremental, shall we say, development in the world of everything in the physical world right now. Typically in the physical world, the world of making stuff and the kinds of technological advancements that are made in there is not in the United States, right? That's not where people are coming up with the new ways of manufacturing semiconductors and all this type of stuff. No, it's not happening here. Okay, so how do you deal with a world where you're no longer the big kid on the block? How do you adjust and realign yourself?
Yeah, so I want to talk a little bit about the manufacturing issue, and that is, I work with a couple different companies that are forced to do some outsourcing, and they have to do it because they can't compete because everyone else is doing it. So they have to do it also, or else they can't keep their doors open. Now they have a number of American-made, items, but they also have items, of course, that are made in China. And in order to get good quality control, because that was always the issue with China stuff, is that the quality of the stuff that we got wasn't necessarily that great. But now that has sort of been sorted out, because a lot of companies here are sending people over there to the plants and actually showing them, in person how to do something and what it is that is expected. So they're getting better very quickly at it, and it's unmatched what it is that they can do over there, as far as efficiency and actually quality, if they have the specific, blueprint for what it is that you want. So, yeah, but of course, as LAR said, that creates a huge sort of black market, as it were, for items, knockoff market. So any of the plants, they actually can make the same items, but just have no name on it, or make a slight modification to it and sell it to another company. Right. And so it makes it very difficult. And this is why, let's talk about with like saxophones. Okay. This is why there's a lot of saxophones that are like the same horn, but with the different names on them. Right. It's because, they're able to, anything that's made in the plant, they can just do that. So I think one of the things that we have to do is we have to try to, as much as we can, get back to American manufacturing. Now that's difficult, because what it means is that everyone would have to take a hit in a transitional period where we weren't able to get as much cheap stuff. We'd have to reduce. We'd have to become more minimalists, unless we need to have all of this stuff. We need to save our money and only buy things that we actually need, rather than having all of this extra stuff. Right? That would be the only way that we would be able to backtrack to get to the place where a lot of the items that we purchase, let's say 50% of the items that we purchase, are actually made in America. Because right now it's like 80% or more of the stuff that we have. Even the cell phone in your pocket was made in China. But it's so that's never going to happen. That's never going to happen.
All right, it's never going to happen until we get forced into making the adjustment. You're saying these things that you just said are not going to happen of your own accord. We're not going to do them early. Now, Dana, you got the floor, you got the mic. The question on the table is how you're going to adjust, but also give your final thoughts, address anything that you want to address. I'm sure you have a couple. But again, how do we adjust, right? China's going to be here. The world, we can't be the number one again. How would you do it, if you were on top, and then now you have to deal with the new big kid on top?
It's a reason why a lot of things are made in China, because if China says we don't want to produce, we are China's biggest customer. They don't want to lose us as a customer, and the fact is that, do we kind of want to lose China as a customer? No, we don't, because like cell phones or a cell phone case, if we made everything here in America, instead of us paying $10, we were probably paying $50 for a cell phone case. So that means we need to replace China with another country, maybe India, because you see some things made in India, Indonesia, or whatever. However, let's get back to this democracy, because this title is about America. And I got to say the F word. Can I just once?
Go ahead.
Make no fucking mistake about it. The purpose of the American democracy, which why everybody they get on a raft, they sneak on an airplane engine, climb over walls, climb a baby over walls to get over here for liberty. That is our democracy. When you look at China and their democracy, it's a dictatorship. The People's Democratic Dictatorship. That's what it is. I don't live under a dictatorship. Never do I want to. Yes, LAR, every 4 years, we have administration come in and they try to put in a new set of rules, but this administration is the one we have seen like no other. But the purpose of that is, if we are not owning anything here in America, us citizens, particularly Black Americans, if we're not participating in the science of politics because people are just uneducated, you know what I'm saying? If we're not learning how to produce and create whatever, then you are going to fall under a socialist, somewhat dictatorship because you're relying on the government. But here in America, it is the pursuit of happiness. What does that mean? We give you the liberty to go out and get it. Go make it happen. We're not going to stand in your way. As opposed to China, you can't own a home. There's no social security when you retire. There's no unemployment. You got to work until you die, 20 hours a day. But our democracy here gives you freedom of religion, freedom of speech, workers' rights. That is our democracy, which is liberty. Make no mistake about it. So there is no goddamn difference when you're talking about American democracy. The purpose of American democracy is, how do you preserve it? And the way, the rate we're going right now, because it's all falls under climate change, we are decreasing our strength. And you look at China, you look at Russia, you look at Iran, and you see their democracy and their dictated communism government, to whereas you got to do as they say, which is making them even stronger. So we are not only decreasing our strength, but we're kind of like just getting away from the American moral compass, so that we can maintain a strong nation here. Yes, capitalism is not going anywhere, but part of the problem is incorporating greed into it, because we have a whole bunch of millionaires and billionaires and hedge funds that are monopolizing vital industries. So whether you're an immigrant, whether you're an American citizen, there is another level of 1% of people that are monopolizing the industries, and America allows that to happen. Why? Because we are a democracy that gives you that liberty to do so. So they're going to be all right. But what's going to happen to the rest of us if America as a nation is not, strengthening our moral compass, our values, our democracy? And that's it.
Yes. On the final thoughts from Dana, she is a good, she still believes in the American spirit, which, by the way, as a somewhat kind of libertarian, I do believe in the universality of that yearning for freedom. And I think that it is a big, even if America does not own that brand anymore, the brand of whomever says, hey, freedom, entrepreneurship, being enterprising and, innovation, all that kind of stuff, I think that brand there is still going to be attractive, and wherever it is, whatever corner of the world that is fostered, if you will attract a lot of people, will attract a lot of innovation. And
that brand is called the United States Constitution, and that is the problem, to where particularly this administration is trying to get rid of it, rewrite it, but we need to preserve the United States Constitution, which is why everybody wants to come over here, because of our Constitution.
Indeed. So game changer. Final thoughts, things you want to address. But the question on the table is this: how are you going to adjust? How does one? And many answers have been given. You may agree or disagree with them, but there's an inevitability of the world not being unipolar anymore, at least. And also perhaps the inevitability of it becoming definitely heavily controlled on the other side, let's say by China or China-Russia alliance, whatever it may be, right? So how do you live in that world? How do you adjust? Mr. LAR says, do the work. What do you say?
I don't think that America can adjust to what's going on. It's unfortunate that we have reached this level, but it's really just individual selfishness that is perpetuated by its liberty that allows people to that put us into this situation. When you say something like pursuit of happiness, and that pertains to the individual will pursue happiness. And that comes in various forms, one of them being unionism. Unionism has taken over America in the past, as feminism did, leaving the oligarchs of America with no choice but to outsource its labor. Now, you're not going to ever insource it. The Americans, because they have the liberty not to do so, will never, ever, ever, ever work for Chinese wages. They would sooner get on welfare and, or go to prison. They just simply would not do that. They would avoid it at all costs. And that's because we have the liberty to do it. You see, the problem with liberty is that some people are just plain stupid. And as a result of it, you allow large populations of stupid people to be the victim of their own liberties. Think of it like a child, right? Who is liberated at a very young age or at a very immature state in their upbringing. They will, of course, live a lifestyle where they, eat ho-hos and, Cinnabons. And, next thing you know, they grow up to be fat adults, living the consequences of their liberties in their childhood. That is what America has done. America has broken off, under the banner of liberty from its parent nation of, England, who was considered more rigid. They did have fewer freedoms, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And now we are living the consequences of these liberties. Now, let's just say if you have the liberty to litter everywhere that you want to, right? And then you say, oh, I love this place because they allow me to litter anywhere. Kind of like when Hakeem came to America and then he said, look, what a country is so free that people can throw glass on the floor or on the ground. Yeah, there's a consequence to that. And that is you have a shitty ass city like New York. And that is what America is becoming, a consequence of its own liberty. So I do feel that a benevolent dictatorship is somewhat in order. However, if you choose your dictator, then guess what? It's a democracy. And that is why we will continue to lose, because people here aren't really loyal to a greater ideal. They're only loyal to their individual gain, their individual pursuit of happiness. If they can actually, move forward without actually contributing anything to society, then they will. Okay, let's put it like this. Take a fat woman, for example, right? Just take a middle-aged fat woman and think about how much she has in common with a child, right? She's a feminist. Feminists believe that, something, I know that this is destructive to the community, to all others around me, but it is beneficial to me, so I am going to go along with this. I'm going to go along with this ideal until I become so incorrigible that nobody wants my company, and people will begin to outsource femininity from other nations. The same with the labor unions. People outsource labor in this country because the labor force has become fat and lazy, and men are starting to outsource women from this country because they have become fat, lazy, and belligerent. So no matter what, and they're never going to go back. They're never going to go back. And the reason why they'll never go back is because they're too lazy and stupid to ever do so. Just like the American workforce will never go back to, the old pre-union days. You see where I'm going with this. So as long as there's that unwillingness, I'm sorry, excuse me, please don't interrupt. Please don't interrupt.
This
I'm
is
sorry, Elio. Please don't interrupt. Please do not interrupt.
Dana, let him finish.
It's entertaining.
Thank you. So I'm sorry, LAR, but no, it will not go back. People are too used to, the quality of life, and people are too far into their own self-interest to ever go back.
All right.
American democracy, please get the fuck out. Please leave. Bye.
All right, Dana is representing the. Where's your MAGA hat?
I have
Where's Stampin' to go?
Well,
Oh,
it's well, if I were to leave, it wouldn't be because of the government. It would be because of the fat ass bitches.
are you around next week? Are you going to be around next week, Dana?
So then go to a country where there are no fat ass bitches.
Are you going to be around, Dana, next week? Because maybe we should talk about this topic you guys are starting on. Immigrants, you like it, don't like it, get the hell out, that kind of stuff.
I could be arguing right now with a fat ass tranny. Who knows? Because people like to be behind these fucking icons.
Well, I tell you who knows. Ike knows. Ike, am I a fat ass transsexual?
Nobody cares.
Then why did you bring it up?
Maybe we should just leave and let them continue the show.
Climate change. I'm telling you, if you got a problem with American democracy that gives you liberty, get your ass on a plane, get your passport stamp, and get the fuck on out.
I have a passport.
Bye.
And you know something? See, here's the thing.
Leave, game changer, leave. I don't know why the hell.
I will do so on my.
I don't know why you got me on my feet because I'm not about to go back and forth.
Guess what? I have every right to be here that you do. See, here's the thing. You are the unwanted element. We have a surplus. We have a surplus of fat ass bitches, and we do not need any more.
Well, if you got a problem with
what
fat
I'm
ass
saying
bitches,
is that yes, as long as you're
tell her she needs to lose weight.
Think of it as something that is corrupting something.
If you keep talking about fat bitches, go to a fat bitch and tell her that she needs to lose weight.
What we don't want is more of it. Okay, you consume more than what your body can contain. That
who
is
the
why
fuck
you're
are you
so
talking to? Who are you talking about?
You.
You don't know me,
I'm
sir.
saying you
I never met
consume
you.
more than what your body can contain.
Oh, so
Listen,
I'm supposed to be the
we as
fat ass
Americans
bitch.
consume too many resources in
Honey,
this country.
I'm not about to sit
You
up here.
consume too many resources, okay? And you breathe out toxic gas.
I'm not
You
about to do
breathe
it.
out more ozone gas than a 98 picto, okay? You waste too much. Every time that you take off a ho-ho wrapper, which is a lot in your case, and throw it away, that shit goes into a land.
Den of iniquity, vicinity no pretty, calamity fi hit we any moment, what a pity. Tomorrow never certain, what dwells behind the curtain, the face of evil lurking with that shifty eyes averting. It's not a steady bubble, that either pop or topple, many will fall and stumble, let the dozers gather rubble. From LA to Colorado, Guinea to Burkina Faso, cannons could reach the towers and the troops will storm the castle. I say, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. So run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. I say, run, come, make we get it. Because the peace that is bestowed upon the meek is overrated. Lord, run, come, make we get it. Calling all your daughters and your sons, we come forget it. With the rubble steady rising, and hearts are compromising. Convictions here are stifling, making evil appetizing. The fists are steady forming, and countenance is falling. Defenses are withdrawing, possibilities are falling. In these circumstances, evil will make advances. Pick up your sword and lances, and be sure to take your stances. Victory is never promised, the battle is upon us. Gather the brave and honest, and the righteous in your corners.